Imagine this. You walk into a room, a dimly lit space, and a complete stranger looks at you, and they seem to know things, deep things, secrets. How? It really feels like magic, like they're peering right into your soul. But what if I told you there's something else going on entirely? Let's pull back the curtain. A statement like that just stops you in your tracks. How on earth could they know that? It's unsettling. You immediately start to wonder, do they have some kind of sixth sense? Are they for real? But what if it's not a gift? What if it's a script?
Yeah, what you're seeing isn't supernatural. Not at all. It's actually a highly refined psychological performance. It's built on a foundation of high-speed analysis, clever wordplay, and some very tricky linguistic traps. It has a name, and we are about to break it down piece by piece.
And that name is cold reading. You got to think of it like a game of psychological smoke and mirrors. And today, we're going to show you exactly how the trick is done. Okay, so let's start with the absolute bedrock of any cold read. This is the first tool they all reach for. And honestly, its power is in its simplicity. It's called the Barnum statement, named after, you guessed it, the great showman P.T. Barnum. These statements are like a psychological skeleton key. They feel so personal, so specific to you, but in reality, they unlock a door that fits nearly everyone. Sound a little familiar? Yeah, of course it does. See, your brain doesn't hear how vague that is. Instead, it immediately gets to work digging through your memories for all the times you felt exactly that way, making the statement feel incredibly true and personal. Here's another fantastic example. Who doesn't have a box like this somewhere? A drawer, a closet, something. When you nod and agree, you're doing more than just confirming a fact. You're giving the reader a win. You're subconsciously telling them, yes, you see me, please keep going. All right, now let's see how they build on that initial hook. Once a reader gets you with a Barnum statement, they often move on to a technique that's all about speed, volume, and just pure statistics. The process is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. They fire out this wide spray of information, just a barrage of names, dates, and feelings, knowing full well that most of it is going to miss. But here's the thing. They don't care about the misses. They're just listening for the sound of that one piece that hits the target. You see what's happening there? They're just playing the odds. Most of us know an older man whose name starts with a common letter, maybe who had some health issues. The moment you say, oh my God, my grandfather John had a heart attack, your brain does this amazing thing. It conveniently forgets all the other stuff they said that was wrong. You only remember the one incredible. Okay, but what about those moments where they seem to just nail your personality? Describing you in a way that feels so spot on it's a little scary? Well, that's likely a different, and honestly, an even cleverer linguistic trap. This is the Rainbow Ruse, and it is the ultimate can't-lose statement. It works because it paints a picture of a complex, nuanced personality, which of course is what we all are. It works by covering both ends of the spectrum at once. Just take a look at things. You can be a very cheerful person who loves company, but there are also times when you really need to shut the world out and just be alone. It's basically impossible to disagree with that, right? Because it just describes the basic human condition. You feel deeply understood, even though the statement applies to literally everyone. And this brings us to the most advanced technique. This is the one that really separates the amateurs from the true masters of the craft. This is the point where the reader stops talking at you and instead they start letting you do all the hard work without you even realizing it. So while they're throwing out these vague statements and shotgun blasts of information, their attention is completely laser-focused. But they aren't looking at some crystal ball or into the great beyond. They're looking at you. So what are they really seeing? They are scanning you for data. Every tiny, involuntary physical reaction is another piece of the puzzle. You lean forward just a little when they mention your career. Well, that tells them they're on the right track. You have a little micro-expression of a frown when they say a specific name. Okay, time to back off that topic. So, in a very real way, you become their guide. You're playing a game of hot or cold without even knowing it, and your body language is telling them everything. They'll throw out a vague idea, watch your reaction, and then rephrase it as a confident statement, using your own reactions as their script. So when you strip it all away, the tarot cards, the dim lighting, the whole mystical vibe, what are you left with? It's not the supernatural. It's actually something far more fascinating.
This whole elaborate system works for one very simple, very human reason. We are all, on some level, desperate to feel seen. We want to believe that someone out there really gets our unique struggles, our hopes, our triumphs. A cold reader doesn't have special powers. They just have a deep, practical understanding of that fundamental human need. And this brings us to the final, simple truth. The secret isn't in the stars, it's not in the cards, and it's definitely not in the spirit world. The source of all their incredible information has been sitting right there, across from them the entire time. It's you.
So I want you to think back. Think about a time when you were amazed, that moment of impossible knowledge, that time a stranger seemed to read your mind. Was it a cleverly worded Barnum statement? Was it a shotgun blast where you only remembered the one single hit? Now that you know the method behind the magic, what do you see?